Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This video is going to be a little bit different in that it's not going to be an actual lesson video as much as it's going to be just kind of discussing a topic that I'm interested in. And what this topic is going to be about is paintovers. Paintovers are usually when someone takes a painting that they found in a thrift store or somewhere that they found for really cheap, and it's someone else has done it, and they go ahead and paint on it, the original canvas. Now, there's several different ways that they can do this. They can take an original painting, or they can just find a print and paint over it, or they can take one of their own paintings and paint over it. And here's what I'm doing. I've taken one of my older digital paintings, so the original is still going to exist, and I'm just kind of painting over this painting that I have of a deer next to a lake. And usually what the painters will do, and it's popular on YouTube, is they'll find a nice bucolic scene and they'll put in a Bigfoot or a flying saucer or Loch Ness Monster, just something funny that's out of place. Or they'll put a dragon, or they'll put Star Wars stuff in, or they'll take a Thomas Kincaid print and put in Star Wars stuff, or something from a movie, and just to kind of be funny, but they are actually painting over the actual canvas. And here I'm not. I'm just taking my Bigfoot. I have a collection of Bigfoot dolls, or whatever you want to call them, Bigfoot stuffies. And I'm just going to put him in the picture for fun, and also the Loch Ness Monster and a flying saucer and things like that, just for fun. And I did a photo bash so that it would see what it would look like. But here I'm not destroying anybody's original artwork. And I know I use the word destroy, maybe alter, whatever, but I'm kind of not sure how I feel about this. When someone takes an original painting of someone else's artwork and paints over it, just for fun. I mean, in the past, yes, artists painted over other artists a lot because canvas was rare, and it was hard to find, and so it wasn't unusual that sometimes you could find a master's painting underneath something that somebody else painted over, and that was because the canvas and painting materials were rare. But this is not the case now. Everybody's just kind of doing this for fun. It's a current trend. It's maybe not as popular as it was, and I don't know how to feel about it, except that it kind of bothers me a little bit when they paint over an original painting of someone. I don't mind when someone paints over a print, because it's just a print and that's not the original. But painting over someone's original art, well, that's the end of it. It's gone. And I know they do it in thrift stores, and they pick generic paintings like kind of Bob Ross style paintings. Maybe somebody did it for a hobby. So they think, well, I got it for $2 or $3 and nobody cares. Well, maybe. A lot of times a person will die and the family doesn't care, or they don't have family, and the estate will donate it to a thrift store or something. Sometimes you can find really famous artists there, and if you paint over somebody from the Taoist School of Art from the early 1900s, that's not really a good thing. And yes, they have found some Vermeers and things like that at garage sales, at thrift stores still. There's a lot of Bierstadt ones. He was one of the early 1900s painters that painted Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, all those pretty places, and he did a lot of paintings, a lot of small ones that people don't know about that can also be painted over. So that's kind of one thing that would be cautionary for me, is who are you painting over? And I don't know if it would mean anything to anybody, but my mother was a painter, and excuse me, if anyone painted over her stuff, I would be upset. And I mean, she did give some paintings away as gifts, and if somebody gave it to a thrift store and then somebody went and painted over it, I would be upset. I mean, it wouldn't mean anything, I guess, to anybody else, but it would to me, because I'm not going to have any more paintings from her. And so it's kind of, I don't know, that's just one of the things that bothers me too about this, painting over someone else's artwork. And like I said, if it's a print, that doesn't bother me because it's not the original. So I'm fine with people wanting to do prints or something like that, but it's just when you paint on the originals, it kind of bothers me. And I know that a lot of people say, well, it's giving life to the art, it's making it new. Maybe so. Maybe they would just throw it away. I don't know. But I just kind of, and especially old paintings that are done, and they find them in the thrift stores, some from the 1920s, 1930s. I just think that, those are kind of historical, and maybe you shouldn't paint over something that's, you might find for history later on some value in it. But I don't know. These are my thoughts, and the reason I'm also kind of upset about painting over other artists' work is because one of my dad's cousins was a very good painter, and she did a mural for a certain city, and her and several other artists, and they did it on the outside of a building, and it stayed there for many years, and then the city decided to get smart and just paint over the top of it. And they didn't put another mural, they didn't put anything pretty, they just painted it with some tan paint and just painted over it and destroyed all those murals that were done by people who are not alive anymore. And you're not going to get any more of their artwork, and they painted over it. And it just kind of, doing that kind of thing, painting over another artist's work when they're dead, and it did mean something to us as the family. And so it just kind of, it destroys some value there, I think, because it was history there, and they painted over it, the city did, and they almost painted over a Peter Hurd mural that was in an old post office, but someone evidently had the sense to figure out that that was valuable, and maybe they shouldn't do that, so they actually did preserve that one. But because my cousin and some of the other artists weren't as popular, they just went ahead and destroyed those. So I don't know, that's where I'm coming from, and why it kind of bothers me when other artists paint over other artists' work. And like I said here, I'm just playing around with one of my old digital paintings, and I'm not actually painting over my original work. Because it's digital, you have the original copy, and then here I'm just kind of playing around, and I just thought it would be fun to do this way. This way I'm not destroying anybody else's original work. And I don't know, a lot of people think it's funny, that they'll take a picture of a beautiful farmhouse and put a dragon on top of it, or something like that, or a giant robot smashing it or something. And that's okay, but maybe you should paint that yourself, paint the farmhouse and then put a robot in it. And then it's your own work instead of somebody else's. But I don't know. I'm not sure, but it just kind of bothers me. Like I said, I don't mind it when it's prints, because prints are not the original work. And although I will say that you better be careful what prints you paint over, because some people have painted over Thomas Kincaid prints, and then they thought that they could sell that as a print itself, and they've gotten cease and desist letters from the Thomas Kincaid estate. So you have to be careful on that as well. And you might take older prints of older paintings that are in the public domain and change them, like the Mona Lisa. Everybody does the Mona Lisa. They do all kinds of things with the Mona Lisa. They put cats in it. But they're not going to the original painting and putting it in the original one. And of course, Picasso and Van Gogh, and they do all kinds of things with the Starry Night from Van Gogh. And again, it's in the public domain. The copyright is. But again, they're not going to the original and painting over it. So I don't mind those kind of things. But just taking someone originals, even though you found it in a thrift store, I don't know. Like I said, it kind of bothers me. It just does. And because of that story that I told you, and because I would be upset if someone had done that to my mother's work, because I would like to have it. Some of them that she gave away. So it doesn't mean anything to anybody maybe but me, but I still would like to have it. So anyway, that's just kind of the way I feel about it. And a lot of people do get mad when they paint over another artist's work. And I understand that, yeah, you've bought the painting, it's yours, you can alter it, you can burn it, you can tear it up, whatever you want to do, but I don't know. It just seems kind of wrong to me to do that. So this is the end of part 1. I discuss it a little bit more, and I'll talk a little bit more about what I'm doing, what I'm painting in the next 3. But I just wanted to think about this for a while, and I wanted other people to think about it as well. So if you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.